This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
It's time for the Kelly Show on the Tan Talk Radio Network with your hosts Kelly and Doug Kelly. Kelly is an award-winning photographer and travel writer, as well as the publisher of the popular ColorfulClearwater.com blog. And Doug is the author of 3 published books and a contributing editor for Florida Sportsman magazine. Now, here they are.
Good afternoon. We've got an amazing show today, so stick with us for the hour. Our first guest is a well-known leader in Tampa Bay, and she'll be filling us in on all kinds of interesting things going on. And in the second segment of the show, we have a man with a remarkable background in show business who's been friends with celebrities his entire life. And we'll talk about some of them and what they're really like in person.
It's been fun all these 5 years hosting a show that serves our community. And just so you know, we're also live on Facebook at the Kelly Show page and Tan Talk Radio's YouTube channel, as well as podcasts.
It's true. We're the good news show, as we leave all the divisive rhetoric for others to deal with. On Friday, by the way, we enjoyed a luncheon held in St. Pete for the Juvenile Welfare Board of Pinellas County. Hundreds of people were there. It was really inspiring.
Yeah, the board helps kids who have been abused, neglected, and left behind, providing all kinds of services to make their lives meaningful to them. We're going to invite some of those young people on the show.
We're going to do that. You know, there's nothing more important than helping people obtain a better life, and we'll speak more about the Juvenile Welfare Board in the future. It's a very worthy organization. So Big Ed Davis, the executive producer of the Tan Talk Radio Network, is with us. Ed, the NFL draft took place a few days ago. How do you rate the picks by the Bucs?
Well, as we always say, we have to wait until the season starts to see how it panned out.
I know. We're going to have some busts.
It was interesting and a little funny because they needed a tough guy on the offensive line. And they picked a redheaded guy from the Northwest that's missing his 2 front teeth since junior high school.
Well, he sounds
and
tough
now
to me.
you know he's got to be tough enough that he says, I'm not going to replace him.
Yeah.
So obviously he didn't get picked on. He's too tough.
Yeah.
So I think they got what they wanted there, and they picked him.
Wouldn't you want the guy who punched his teeth out though instead?
You never know what he looks like today. That was in high school. You know?
I hear you. So, all right. Well, we'll see. Like you said, it all plays out in the season. You're going to have some people who were drafted, and they're going to prove they were worth it, and others are going to get cut.
Yeah, we're all going to be in life after Brady.
I know it. It's tough. That's for sure.
It's like being divorced.
I'm in the doldrums already, and the season hasn't even begun.
It's like being a divorce and going on the wagon. There's life after Brady.
I know it.
That's true. Well, we'll be right back in a few moments, but first see if you know the answer to this. In what city did the first commercial flight take place? The answer right after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman.
Shop the largest selection of Guy Harvey apparel, artwork, and gift items at GuyHarvey.com. From the world-renowned marine wildlife artist, the Guy Harvey online shop features the latest in performance apparel, classic Guy Harvey t-shirts, decor for every room in your home, exquisite ocean-inspired jewelry, and unique gift items, including custom merchandise not available anyplace else. Browse an extensive catalog of original Guy Harvey works of art and a full range of beautiful reproductions. As with all Guy Harvey merchandise, a percentage of sales benefits the ocean conservation, research, and education work of the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation. The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation will help ensure that future generations can enjoy and benefit from a well-balanced ocean ecosystem. Bring the undersea world into your everyday life at GuyHarvey.com.
Do you know what a truly special blog is? It's a website that's rated as one of the best in Florida, chock full of fantastic articles, humor, videos, and hundreds of cool pictures. So what blog is creating all that buzz? It's ColorfulClearwater.com, a blog on the internet created by Kelly Kelly. In only its second year, ColorfulClearwater.com is gaining in popularity every day due to its original writing and original videos and photography. It's updated several times per week with fresh content and includes everything about the color, culture, and vibrancy of Clearwater's citizens and businesses. Even though it covers just one city in Florida, ColorfulClearwater.com nonetheless is already outperforming blogs promoting tourist destinations and major sports teams. Hey, see for yourself. Give a visit to ColorfulClearwater.com and make it your source of enlightening insights and entertainment. That's ColorfulClearwater.com.
You run your business with a laser-like focus on success. Challenges come at you from every angle, but you stay the course. Your calendar is full and your time is limited. So how do you deal with governmental issues that can impact your business? Turn to Amplify Clearwater, your Chamber of Commerce for Clearwater and Clearwater Beach. Amplify Clearwater monitors legislation on the city, county, and state levels to identify issues that will impact businesses in the region. Then they become your voice to our elected representatives. They listen, watch, then take action to either support positive legislation or table bills that would negatively affect our business community. But they need your support to continue this vital work. Why not join the Chamber today? Visit amplifyclearwater.com for all the details and to submit a membership application. Amplify Clearwater. One community, one chamber, one vision.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Well, thank you for being with us today on the Kelly Kelly Show. I'm Doug Kelly with my better three quarters, Kelly Kelly. Yes, that's really her name, Kelly Kelly. And we're also here with Big Ed Davis, the executive producer of the Tan Talk Radio Network. And before the break, Kelly asked what city did the first commercial flight take place? Well, on January 1st, 1914, pilot Tony Janis flew an open cockpit airplane from St. Petersburg to Tampa, making it the world's first commercial flight. The plane, I read, skimmed across Tampa Bay at only 5 feet above the water, taking 23 minutes to reach Tampa, a trip that took 2 hours by boat of that era.
The things you learn on the Kelly Kelly Show.
Oh, amazing, right?
Wow.
Yep.
Wow. By the way, tickets are selling fast for the Greg Gutfeld Show coming to Coachman Park in Clearwater the evening of July 15th.
That's right. Greg Gutfeld hosts the top-rated evening show on TV. And Kelly and I already have our tickets. For details, call Ruth Eckert Hall at 727-791-7400 or visit rutheckerthall.com.
Our first guest today is quite a distinguished person. Kathleen Peters is a commissioner on the Pinellas County Board of County Commissioners. She's a passionate advocate for reforming the behavioral health system of care and ending the stigma associated with seeking help for those suffering from mental illness and substance abuse disorders. Yeah,
Kathleen believes in prioritizing the core functions of local government: public safety, water quality, environmental protection, and sound infrastructure. And she serves on many valuable boards and committees. Kathleen, it's great having you again with us on the Kelly Kelly Show.
It's wonderful to be here.
Fantastic.
And I kind of had forgotten about the mental health issue. So this is kind of, I just had the 30th anniversary of my stepfather's suicide just a couple of days ago. So this is kind of, why is mental health important to you?
Well, I think it should be important to everybody, and for many reasons. They say 1 in 4, maybe 1 in 5 people suffer from mental illness. So if it's 1 in 4 or 1 in 5, you're talking 20 to 25% of the population.
That's huge.
Suffers from mental illness. And then we'll have to take children out because children don't typically see signs or symptoms until they're 14 to 25. They start appearing. So if 20 to 25% of the population suffers from mental illness, and I'm not just talking about mental health. Mental health and mental illness are very different. Mental illness is a diagnosable disease. And it is, in fact, a disease. It's schizophrenia, it's bipolar, there's severe depression, there's many names that are associated with diagnosis for mental illness. So if 20 to 25% of the population suffer from mental illness because we have not done a good job at giving access and quality care for people with mental illness, and stigma has been associated with mental illness, people have been self-medicating, right? They've been trying to figure out how to deal with their illness on their own without professional help. And therefore, many people suffer from addiction as well. And so what you'll find out is, 20 to 25% of the people suffer from mental illness, but their parents, their spouses, their children, their siblings all suffer as well. So when you do that kind of ripple effect, probably 70% of the population, either directly or indirectly, is impacted by mental illness. And so it is critically important, and it hasn't gotten the attention it deserves and should have.
I was going to say that. The extended family as well is impacted as well.
Right.
So, so you're absolutely
And I'm so
right.
sorry about your loss from your father.
Oh, thank you for that. But so 30 years later, it still impacts family.
It does.
And so, Oh, well, thank you for being an advocate for that because it is vitally important. So, okay.
Well, for those who don't know about the Pinellas County Commission, you're a commissioner. Tell us about it. What's a encapsulation of it?
So the Pinellas County Commission is it's your local government. Now here in Pinellas County, we also have 24 municipalities, so we have several layers of local government. And local government, as you said, those core functions, really, it's my opinion, but I believe it's the core function is kind of sewer, water, roads, public safety. And, a community cannot grow and thrive if we don't have clean water for obvious reasons. Community cannot grow and thrive if we do not have good sewer systems and environmental systems so we don't have disease. Cannot grow and thrive if people live in fear and we don't have good first response, fire and police and emergency management. And it cannot grow and thrive if you don't have good infrastructure. And when I say infrastructures, I call it roads, but it's really not just roads and bridges. It's electricity. We have to have the grid. It's the internet these days. So infrastructure is more than just roads and bridges. And as people recognized in COVID, I think a lot of people really didn't know what their local government did. But when COVID happened, they were watching every single week to see what local government did. And I think people realized very quickly that local government is closest to the people. And when we write an ordinance at the local level, it immediately is initiated and it immediately impacts the people. Now, when I was in the state legislature, we would write a bill and it would take, by the time they wrote the rule on that bill, by the time that translated down to the local people and the rubber hit the road, it could be years, sometimes decades, and sometimes never.
Right.
Same thing with the federal government, but local government is truly closest to the people and impacts them the most.
How many county commissioners are there?
There are 7 of us on the county commission.
And you meet how often?
We meet every week, and it rotates. So one week will be a workshop where we really get into the nitty-gritty of business. Then the next week we'll take votes on the agenda items, which are local ordinances. But people watch those meetings and they see us vote and they don't see us talk about it much. And that's because the talking and the working out happened the week before in the workshop.
Gotcha.
So every other week is a workshop where we really hash it out. And then every other week in between that is when we go and we get together and we vote on the issues that were discussed.
Okay.
Are people allowed to view that session?
People are allowed to view. It's available on the website. You can stream it. It's available on YouTube. And people can make public comment only on the Tuesday meetings when we meet and vote. There's no public comment on the workshop meetings.
What are some of the boards you serve on?
So currently I am on Tampa Bay Water, which is fascinating because Tampa Bay Water manages the water for 3 counties, Pasco, Hillsborough, and Pinellas County. And we do the planning, long-term planning to ensure that we have enough potable drinking water for the exponential population that we're expecting in Florida. And so it's critically important that we have good, clean, healthy water and safe water for every resident that moves to Pinellas County. And so Tampa Bay Water is a great, interesting, fascinating board, and the planning is so critically important because you can't survive without water.
Try surviving without water for just 1 or 2 days.
No, I couldn't. It's not healthy to do that either.
No, and then people realize just how critical it really is.
Water is critical. Nothing can survive without water. Yeah. And so I serve on that board and PSTA and the Homeless Leadership Board, and there's a smattering of lots of, the.
Okay. Well, how would you describe your style of leadership?
I'm much more a collaborative leader, more empowering kind of leader. I'm not a top-down. I think it takes a team, takes a village. And even among my staff, I'm very much not top-down, and I consider my staff to be partners.
Sure.
And everybody I work with, we're partners, and when we work together, we can really accomplish great things. And so that's more my style. It's very collaborative.
You're not a dictator?
No. And I have found that I don't do well if I'm serving under one.
Oh, yeah. That's insufferable. I think we've all at one time or another had a boss who was just impossible. Yells, screams, rants, raves. Yeah. Nobody ever stays in that atmosphere.
No, it's not conducive for...
No. How did you and your family end up in Clearwater?
So actually, we're not in Clearwater, in Treasure Island. I live in Treasure Island.
Gotcha.
2 of my sons live in Clearwater, though. Oh. So I moved here from the Chicago area in 1985. I moved to South Pasadena, and my husband at the time and I bought a convenience store on St. Petersburg Beach. And so we ran that business for 28 years, and we had 4 sons. We raised our 4 sons here. 2 live in Clearwater, 2 live in St. Petersburg, and so I'm blessed that they're nearby.
Yes.
And one of my 4 sons has 4 sons.
Oh my!
And he and his wife decided that that foster care would be something that they would like to participate in and save children and give them a healthy place to be while their mom and dad were trying to figure out their life and kind of get in order so their child could be in a safe place while mom and dad get their act together. Mm-hmm. And so they've been doing foster care for 2 years now, and there's 1 child that they're going to adopt. So they'll have 5 children. And
wow.
Well, hopefully soon it'll be legal, and we'll have a little girl in the family.
Oh boy,
that's awesome.
Yeah,
that's
super. And they've been raising her for the last 2 years.
So you've had nothing but males pretty much around.
Yeah, I have 5 other brothers as well. So
5 brothers, 4 sons.
And so
that's great.
That's cool.
What goals do you hope to achieve in the near term?
So my work in the mental illness arena has been, vast, and you all know I've come to your show many times.
Yes.
Both when I was in the legislature and on the county commission. And I can tell you what I'm really excited about. It's taken over 4 years to accomplish on the county commission. But although I accomplished sweeping reform in the legislature, when the rubber hit the road, people were not getting access to care. So we have created what we're calling the CAM. It's a coordinated access model. We'll probably come up with a better model after that, but it should be launched within a month. And it will be a call-in number, and we can give you more details when it's launched. And I would love to come back on the show and really get into the nitty-gritty of it. But it'll be a call-in, and when you call in, you'll get an assessment. And after you get your assessment, then you'll get what's different from anywhere else is you'll get an appointment. So many people don't know how to access care. It's a very bureaucratic kind of web of care, system of care. So you'll call in, you'll get an appointment. If you need transportation, they'll make sure there's transportation there for you. And so, and if it's critical, of course, then they'll have a wellness check. And it's really not for people that are critical that need a Baker Act. Mm-hmm. It's really for people who know they have an issue or they might need their meds adjusted, but they don't have a doctor. That's what this system is for. Mm-hmm. And so it's a partnership with every provider in the county. And we're all working together, and that's the only way this is going to work, is everybody works together. And so they have slots, and as soon as they get the appointment, then that information and that assessment will go to that agency that has now taken that client on. And what's nice is if that client calls us again in a couple of weeks, we'll already know where we sent them, where they go. And so currently you can get Baker acted and go to directions, and then you can have another problem and go to Suncoast. And so you've got all these doctors that are prescribing for you, and you're going to numerous agencies. Now it's all going to be consolidated into one, and everybody will know where you're going and who you're seeing. And so if
That's
they
great.
come
That's
back in the
fantastic.
system, we can say, hey, we've got this person, get your case manager on it. And so we feel that fewer people slip through the cracks. And then now the other thing is addiction, which is a whole kind of different conversation.
Right.
So the opiate crisis is truly an epidemic, and it is a crisis. And so last year we lost 613 people to overdose. The year before we lost 613 people to an overdose. And the year before that we lost 545. So just over 1,700 people in 3 years we lost to an overdose. And all those are accidental overdoses. Now, that's not suicide. That's a different category. So people wondered where everybody went and why is there a workforce problem? Well, most of the people that overdosed were between the age of 30 and 45. And so that's our workforce. So people wondered, well, they left during COVID and they didn't come back. Why is there workforce shortage? Well, most of them are not alive anymore.
Wow.
And nobody's really kind of put that out there on the table. But we lost more than 1,700 people to an accidental overdose during the same time as the pandemic.
A lot of it is it not a factor of they take medications and they forgot they took a dose and they keep taking more and more?
No.
It's not that?
No, it really isn't.
It's just an addiction.
It's an addiction. I mean, it started when doctors were prescribing opiates, and they were told and educated that the opiates were not addictive. So, which was false. And so when the legislature wrote some laws that said doctors could no longer prescribe more than 3 days or 7 days, well, we didn't put a safety net around the thousands of people that were already addicted. And so what we did is we left those people struggling on the street, and all they could do is go to the street to get drugs. So we opened up a market for black market drugs to hit the streets. And unfortunately, the black market drugs are all tainted. There is not one drug on the street that is not tainted. Not one. I don't care what you're looking for.
Fentanyl is killing people.
And fentanyl is killing people, but now we have another one that's being mixed. It's in the nitazene class. And nitazene is different. It's a medication that veterinarians use. So it's not listed as a Scheduled 1, so you can't prosecute. Now, Ashley Moody has made it in Florida, so you can prosecute. Other states have not been so swift at making it illegal and Scheduled 1. But if you have a drug that's now tainted with a nitazene, it'll take 8 to 10 shots of Narcan to bring you back to life.
Wow.
Where fentanyl will be, 2 to 4 shots up the nose to bring them back to life. And if a xylazine is in there, then Narcan does not work, and it will cause a chemical reaction that will definitely make sure we don't bring you back to life, but you definitely will perish. So there's more than just fentanyl on the street. There's more dangerous drugs, and the more we put laws on one drug, then they find something else to taint the medicine. So we are doing at the county. This is what makes me excited. We are doing a program. Tampa General does this. We're doing it at Bayfront Medical Center. And at Bayfront Medical Center, if an ambulance brings someone in who's been Narcaned, we have a peer counselor and a mental health counselor, and we've trained all of the ER docs to start looking at addiction as a disease no different than diabetes, no different than heart disease, no different than any other disease that someone might come into the ER with. And so once they bring them through to the recovery where they're through withdrawals and they're healthy, when they give them their medical plan to release them, the medical plan includes a plan for their addiction. Where before it didn't. If they had heart disease, they got a plan for the heart disease, but it didn't include their addiction. So they can get a dose of Suboxone, which is medically assisted treatment to get people off of opiates. And they can continue going to the ER every day to get their Suboxone to make sure that they aren't going to the street to get drugs until we do a warm handoff to Operation PAR or West Care or Avera Health. There's several organizations in Pinellas County that do medical assisted treatment to get people off their addiction. And so catching them in the ER is critical. And we have found that the recidivism rate for those people that we've taken to the ER is down about 13% or 13 to 18%. So, it's a saving on our EMS systems. It's a saving at the ER system and our healthcare system. But mostly we think we can save more lives and see finally that number of people dying of an overdose has skyrocketed, and we're hoping we can now see a downturn. And our goal is to get that in every ER in the county.
That's good. The reason it's so exciting for me is that my stepfather was being prescribed refills. Now, this is 30 years ago, over the phone, and he was taking...
Every morning you can wake up.
Oops.
He was taking 5 times the recommended dosage of his medication. So, and it caused suicidal tendencies. So he was an upstanding citizen, not somebody that you would expect it from. So that's why this is so exciting to me.
Yeah, that's really great.
Yeah.
Congratulations. It sounds like
We're excited. And many people that are addicted are upstanding citizens.
Oh, yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
They absolutely are. Doctors, lawyers, CPAs.
Yeah.
What do you like doing on your time off?
Oh, I'm a water person. I love to paddleboard and just be on the water. It's a boating or kayaking or paddleboarding. And love to be on the water. I love to hike.
You're an outdoors girl.
I'm an outdoors girl.
Very good. Very good. What's the contact info for the Pinellas County Commission for people who might want some additional information about it?
PinellsCounty.gov is the website.
That's easy enough.
Very simple. And if you go to the website, you can reach any of one of your county commissioners and call them directly at their office, and they'll reach back out to you if they don't answer the phone. Fantastic.
Kathleen, continued success with the Pinellas County Commission. And it sounds like you've got some good travel plans coming up. You're going to have a great summer. And we look forward to having you back. We would like to have you back when this program is up and running fully.
I would love to do that. Actually, I'll probably not send myself. I'll send the staff because they're more knowledgeable about it. But that would be, we really need to get the word out and the effective word out to make sure that it's reaching the right people. I'm really excited about it.
Listen, we'll be back right after this short break. But first, see if you know the answer to this. Who was the first person to coin the phrase rock and roll? Our next guest not only knows the answer, he's a president of that man's production company and his production company. You'll meet him right after this.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
In 1955, the law firm now known as Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes made a decision. Instead of taking whatever cases came through their doors, they decided to focus specifically on personal injury. 64 years later, the law firm is one of Clearwater's longest-running personal injury firms. Available 24 hours a day with offices in Clearwater and throughout Tampa Bay, they're ready to put decades of experience to work for you if you or a loved one has been injured in a car accident or injured due to someone's negligence or recklessness. If you feel overwhelmed, uncertain, or unsure about your next steps after being involved in an accident or after a loved one sustained serious injuries due to someone else's negligence, call Pernick, Caulfield, Averill, and Noyes at 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. That's 727-796-8282 or online at usalaw.com. Non-attorney spokesman.
Shop the largest selection of Guy Harvey apparel, artwork, and gift items at GuyHarvey.com. From the world-renowned marine wildlife artist, the Guy Harvey online shop features the latest in performance apparel, classic Guy Harvey t-shirts, decor for every room in your home, exquisite ocean-inspired jewelry, and unique gift items, including custom merchandise not available anyplace else. Browse an extensive catalog of original Guy Harvey works of art and a full range of beautiful reproductions. As with all Guy Harvey merchandise, a percentage of sales benefits the ocean conservation, research, and education work of the Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation. The Guy Harvey Ocean Foundation will help ensure that future generations can enjoy and benefit from a well-balanced ocean ecosystem. Bring the undersea world into your everyday life at GuyHarvey.com.
Do you know what a truly special blog is? It's a website that's rated as one of the best in Florida, chock full of fantastic articles, humor, videos, and hundreds of cool pictures. So what blog is creating all that buzz? It's colorfulclearwater.com, a blog on the internet created by Kelly Kelly. In only its second year, colorfulclearwater.com is gaining in popularity every day due to its original writing and original videos and photography. It's updated several times per week with fresh content and includes everything about the color, culture, and vibrancy of Clearwater's citizens and businesses. Even though it covers just one city in Florida, colorfulclearwater.com nonetheless is already outperforming blogs promoting tourist destinations and major sports teams. Hey, see for yourself. Give a visit to colorfulclearwater.com and make it your source of enlightening insights and entertainment. That's colorfulclearwater.com.
These days, amidst supply chain issues, staffing crises, and rising energy bills, it's not easy to be a successful entrepreneur in Clearwater. For many, financial fears have led to sleepless nights. On top of that, many more have employees and customers that they're trying to protect and reassure. A monumental task when they themselves are struggling with burnout. We're all experiencing a lot of intense emotions. So where can you find safe harbor? At Amplify Clearwater. Amplify Clearwater is your Chamber of Commerce, and the name says it all, to make Clearwater larger, greater, stronger. Here you'll find like-minded members who are seeking opportunities to learn from each other, to collaborate, network, support, and do business together. Every business owner's goal in 2022 is to grow their business. If you need help, your friends at Amplify Clearwater are here for you. Submit your application today at amplifyclearwater.com/join.
This is the Tan Talk Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to the Kelly Kelly Show. I'm Kelly Kelly here with Doug Kelly. And before the break, Doug asked if you knew who first coined the phrase rock and roll. We'll answer that by introducing our next guest.
Tony Belmont is president of Alan Freed Productions, the first rock and roll company in the world. Tony produced hundreds of rock and roll concerts of every size, including the first satellite concert. He managed some of the early rock and roll gold record artists, such as the Drifters, the Platters, Jackie Wilson, and many more in the 1950s and 1960s.
Tony is working with a movie company to finish the screenplay based on his life. Tony is president of the Comedy Hall of Fame and the National Comedy Hall of Fame Museum.
We're going to be talking about both of those, mostly about the humor side of it because it's so of a present interest, but he's also produced dozens of TV award shows, including the record-breaking Minnie Pearl special live from the Grand Ole Opry. Tony, it's great seeing you again.
Thank you. Thank you. It's fun to be here again.
Great. Wonderful.
Tony, tell us about the importance of you and Alan Freed as it relates to the history of rock and roll.
Well, I met Alan back in 1959, and it was kind of one of those things where I was at the right place at the right time. At that time period, I was the music director. Even though I was just a kid, I was the music director at Palisade Park in New Jersey.
Oh, sure.
We had a big bandstand on the top of the cliffs there, and Irving Rosenthal, one of the great amusement park owners, owned Palisade Park and took a liking to me and put me in charge of the music there at the stage. And I still remember Cousin Brucey coming there for the show, and Irving said hello, and he got up on the stage and he says, "Okay, well, who's directing this the show?" And Irving pointed over in the corner to me, and he said, "The kid, the kid is producing the show."
Yeah.
And Irving said, "He's no kid. He may be young, but he has a mind of a 60-year-old. and that was it. And I still remember that show. We had the Flamingos, the Chiffons, the Five Satins, which to this day is still one of my favorite groups in the still of the night. You know, just a great early doo-wops. And a song that started a change in rock and roll called Doll in the Rain. It was done by a group called the Knockouts. It was a local hit around Philadelphia, New York, and Jersey. And what made this song unique was that there was what they call a floating falsetto that went behind the lead singer. So as the lead singer was singing, you'd hear this floating falsetto, which is what you hear Frankie Valli do a lot.
Right.
And that that changed a lot of the stuff that was done in early doo-wop rock and roll. You heard that falsetto more and more predominant with plenty of the songs like the Coasters and the Vogues and
Lou Christie. Some of those came out with the same type of thing.
Lou loved that stuff. Yeah. We were doing a concert at the Coliseum in St. Pete. We matter of fact, we did the first rock and roll concert ever done in St. Petersburg. Was at the Coliseum, but I'm going back many years to Lou Christie, and I had a producer with me, and we went backstage to say hello to Lou. I was handling Lou at the time, and as we walked in the dressing room, I said, without looking at Lou, I looked over my shoulder and I said, Lou, I got somebody I want you to meet. Well, Lou was bending over and he was naked and he was picking up something off the floor. And the man and I just stood there, looked at a butt. It was a big butt looking right at us.
Okay.
And I had already said, well, Lou, you look pretty good. You haven't aged a drop.
Yeah, Lightning Strikes Again, some of those songs. He was fantastic. And of course, Frankie Valli, like you said, all their incredible hits. But you've been far more than just one of the pioneers in the rock and roll and production business. You have started something that you are going to talk about now, which is a history museum. And tell us how that came about. I think if I was reading correctly, back in the late 1980s or something?
Well, let's go back further than that. It was about 1969. I was booking the Iron Butterfly. We were doing quite a few shows. I provided some of the acts for Woodstock back it was August of '69. But right around that time period, I got a call from the Smithsonian Institute in Washington. And the guy said, we have a project, a very important project, and we need somebody of your caliber to do it. And I said, what is that? He says, well, all the great comedians of this century are dying. Because by that point, vaudeville, most of the vaudevillians had come out of 1918, 1923, 24. By 1970, these guys were in their 80s and stuff. And he says, and we're afraid that when they go, they'll take all these stories with them. We can't allow that piece of history to be lost. So we need somebody to travel the country and interview them and put them on tape, video and sound. So I said, I said, that's very nice. And I'm flattered, but I said, but I'm rock and roll. I said, what made you want to call me? So, well, we saw how comfortable you are with the celebrities. And that's our biggest concern, because you'll be talking to some of the legendary comedians, and we want somebody that feels right at ease with them. So, I was skeptical at first. I wasn't sure how much this was going to get paid. The money comes up, and so I agreed, and then we made the deal, and we went out on the road. I expected it to be about 3 months. It took 2.5 years, and I traveled with a cameraman, just the two of us. We'd go to their house, and we'd sit down in the room. They'd sit down on the couch. And I would interview them. And with people like that, you didn't do a lot of talking. You held back and you just listened to these amazing stories, And I still remember one of the first ones was Jack Benny. We went to Beverly Hills, and there's a street there that the Gershwin brothers lived on. Lucy, Burt Lancaster, and Jack and Mary, his wife. And it was just an amazing street. And we went there. We made the arrangements. We came in. The butler brought us into the den. We sat there in this beautiful room with all kinds of awards all over the walls. And we waited, and the door opened, and in walked Jack, holding Mary's hand.
Did he prance in like he usually did?
Yeah, he had that sort of a gait. He had and Johnny Carson used to make fun of it sometimes, but it was kind of a slippery kind of a gait, like he was ice skating.
Sachet.
Yeah, sachet, yeah. And he was holding Mary's hand. Mary Livingston was the wife. And they came in and they sat down on the couch, and he was still holding Mary's hand. So I said, he said, how would you like to do this? And I said, well, Jack, this is a historical interview. So we want to get all the facts, all the stories, how it all began from you. I'll be doing very little talking, and I'll just pop in once in a while and let you just go with the stories. I said, but before we begin, there's something that's on my mind. And he said, what's that? I said, I saw you walk in holding Mary's hand. And I said, I think that's very romantic. I know the two of you have been married for decades. And without missing a beat, he said, yes, that's right. If I let go, she goes shopping. And I knew that from that point on, what was going to happen. I was going to deliver straight lines, and I was the setup.
Mhm.
And there was quite a few more moments like that in the story. But we took the interview. I had to come back a second day. There was just so many stories. We winded up doing about, some 300 stories from great Martha Ray, Mort Saul, all these amazing Henny Youngman, all these amazing comedians from years gone by, and the stories they would tell. I remember when I was talking to Milton Berle, and he told me a story that was that I just thought amazing. Now, you heard of the statement, he died on stage.
Mhm.
Well, with a comedian, that can really be devastating.
Yeah,
but
right.
he died on stage actually happened to a couple of comedians. Dick Shaw finished his act
Really?
and said, "Thank you very much," and then collapsed to the floor and died right there.
Hmm.
But the one that really
He was really killing them, huh?
Oh, wow.
But the one that really caught my attention was Park Your Carcass. Now, Park Your Carcass, his real name is Harry Einstein, and Park Your Carcass was one of these comedians that was really great, but never made it to the upper rungs. But the comedians all knew who he was. He was what we call the comedian's comedian, and they're doing the show in L.A. It's to honor Lucy and Ricky. And the dais has everybody you can imagine on the dais there. They're all there to honor them. And Lucy told them before time, "I want Park Your Carcass on the show. I just think you guys terrific." So they have Park Your Carcass on the show, entertaining, and he's doing about 15 minutes, and the audience is roaring with laughter. I mean, this guy is just terrific. Everybody loves him. He gets to the end, and he finishes it up, and they're all applauding, and he walks around the side, comes up on the dais, and sits down next to Milton Berle. As soon as he sits down, he drops his head real hard on Milton's shoulder. The audience sees it. They start laughing. They think this is just wonderful. Milton looks over and stares at him and kind of nudges his shoulder a little bit and realizes, oh my God, this guy's out. He's out. And he starts looking a little bit closer, and he realizes, he goes, I think he's dead. And that's exactly what happened.
No kidding.
Park Your Carcass had a heart attack right there. So now he has a dead man with his head on the shoulder. And Milton Berle motions to the stagehands, what's going on, but it's a live audience. You got 600 people in the audience. So he motions to the guy, them, and they come and they pick up Park Your Carcass. And there's only about 2 of them. So they pick up him by the ankles and by the arms. He's not a light guy. And they're carrying him off the stage. The audience stands up and gives a standing ovation because they think
That's part of the act.
Yes, part of the act.
Oh my gosh.
This guy is just tremendous, right? And they don't realize they're applauding a dead man leaving the stage.
Wow, that is too much.
So the MC at the time, who was that guy that had the children's shows with all the little kids?
Art Linkletter.
Art Linkletter was the MC.
Mm-hmm.
And Art Linkletter turns to one of the singers and says, look, sing something. Sing anything. You got to stall till we can finish this thing out. So the singer starts singing, There'll Be No Tomorrow.
Oh, no. What a selection.
Which was the craziest song you could imagine.
Yeah.
But those were the kind of stories that got lost in time, and it was just amazing. And we documented all this stuff. And I remember that people used to ask me, well, who was your favorite? Well, that's awfully hard. When you're talking to 300 of the greatest comedians,
oh my gosh,
they're all terrific. I mean, you got everybody from, and not just the old ones, you got everybody from Robin Williams, who was so fast, so glib, and Jonathan Winters and all those guys. And you go, and then you had the real old ones, like a Moran and Mack and Smith and Dale and the Sunshine Boys, those kind of things. But well, I think I'd have to say one of my favorites was George Burns. And mostly because George was a living history book of comedy.
Yeah.
So we made arrangements to see George. And ironically enough, it was the next day after Jack Benny, And before I left Jack Benny, he gave me a little box. And I said, oh, I don't really need a gift, Jack. It's very nice of you. He said, no, that's not for you. That's for George. They were best friends.
Oh yeah, right.
Jack and Mary and George and Gracie used to go everywhere together.
Mm-hmm.
And I opened it up, and it's a whoopee cushion. And he says, when he's not looking, slide it onto the chair. Well,
That's funny.
I didn't have the guts to do that.
Yeah.
But I go to the house. I go to see George, and we start talking. And again, George is just like Jack. You throw out a word. I said, George, I said, you're a very optimistic guy. Even at that time, he was considerably older than I was. And I says, yeah, you're very optimistic for a man your age. He says, without missing a beat, he said, that's right. He said, let me tell you something, kid. He said, I was walking towards the kitchen the other day, and as I passed the basement door, I slipped all the way down the steps, landed on that concrete right at the bottom. Got up. I wasn't angry. Dusted myself off. I said, gee, I didn't know I could move that fast. And it was his kind of, and he told me, he said, what you just heard was senior humor.
Mm-hmm.
And I says, what do you mean, George? He said, well, humor has different age factors. He says, the 15-year-old's not going to laugh at a joke that was meant for a 50-year-old.
Right.
He says,
Good point.
And he says, so you have to know your audience.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I says, that's interesting. And he said, I'll give you another example. I said, I knew you would. and he said, at the other day, and this is a senior joke. He said, I was sitting in the chair, and I looked down, and my shoe was untied. I leaned down to tie my shoe, and I got down there, and just as I started to move the shoelace, I thought, gee, I wonder what else I could do while I'm down here.
Make use of the time, right?
Yeah, I don't want to have to bend down 3 or 4 times.
Yeah, right. That's too much.
And this was the kind of it was like fantastic because he could tell you all the jokes because you remember. I'm sure a lot of the listeners remember him doing God. He played God.
Yes, that's right. That was a famous movie.
Yeah.
Well, I know they were. I think Jack Benny has always been. It's always been said that the person who could make him laugh the most was George Burns.
Oh, yeah. George was. It was amazing. He lived so long and smoked those big cigars.
Oh yeah.
And in the
99.
99, he was
99.
booked. He was booked for a gig to do at 100.
Jeez.
And he died a few months before that. But just a wonderful man, and he really loved Gracie. I mean, today's celebrities, you see them floating in and out of marriage,
Right.
but it didn't happen so much back then. It didn't happen. And he met Gracie back in vaudeville. And Gracie Allen, according to him and according to Jack and many of the others, was one of the most brilliant female comedians of all times. Matter of fact, some of them feel that Lucy copied a lot of Gracie's type of humor, dipsy and stuff. But when they did the George Burns, Gracie Allen television show in the 50s, everybody had a script. Not Gracie. She just ad-libbed. But she would have a good idea of the script. She'd read what they were going to do. And you had to be good because when you're giving a line on stage, and the other person, and you and the other person went with a script, but they're not using the script. Yeah, you better be ready to do a lot
sharp.
of.
I remember one time George Burns. This is after Gracie had passed a long time, and somebody asked him, "What do you think of ladies your age?" And he said, "There are no ladies my age." This is when he was in his 90s or something. He was amazing. Well, you've got something that I don't think anybody in the world has had. I was at your house. I saw an amazing array of props that you've collected, not souvenirs, but actual exhibits. And these things need to go into a museum. And let's talk about that for a moment.
Yeah.
We are so much in need of a comedy humor museum, and it can bring in a lot of people.
Yes, it
right?
could. Yes.
Tell us about that. Expound.
Well, it's too bad the lady that came before me didn't stick around and sit down because she's the kind of person that we really need to make a change.
In front of her again.
She's here. She's on the commission.
Sure.
They have the authority to do the kind of things, to do wonderful things. Clearwater's always been a wonderful town for all of us. And the Comedy Hall of Fame in Clearwater go all the way back to 1991. Clearwater, at the time, there was a mayor somewhere around that, or I think his name was Brian Ungst.
Yeah, Brian Sr.
Brian, very bright mayor.
Mm-hmm.
And
he's the interim mayor now.
Oh, is that right?
Yes, he is. Mm-hmm.
He's back.
Yep.
He's back.
He's back.
He was a terrific mayor, but his wife was even more impressive. We met with them, and she just thought the Comedy Hall of Fame for the United States to be housed in Clearwater was a phenomenal idea. She loved it. She was a big champion of it. She wanted it where old Steinmart used to be, down by the water, when Steinmart was going under. But she got ill around that time, and it kind of fell by the wayside. And there was the election coming up. And, when elections come up, politicians are just filled with electoral type ideas and stuff. Then they're not ready to take any chances.
Sure.
So, and then we got an offer. We got offers to go on the road with a traveling show called the Comedy Time Tunnel. And we traveled the malls, and we traveled different cities with this thing. So it passed. But Clearwater contacted us again a couple of more times. And either we were not in the right position because we were signed up with contract, or when we called, the person that in charge at the time just couldn't help us. The last situation was just in this past year. Got a call from Clearwater. We have a couple of thousand people that signed the petition, by the way, most of them from the top of the world that want the Comedy Hall of Fame in Clearwater.
Well, it brings in a lot of dollars.
It does.
Tell me some of those stats.
We did 237,000 people at one time. This is pre-pandemic. And if you multiply that, and you multiply it times the ticket price, which is $12, which is pretty low for ticket prices. For me, you go to the dollar, you're going to spend some money. Yeah. And so you multiply that times 237,000, you'll see there's a lot of money that comes in. But it's not just the money that comes into the coffers, but it's other businesses. Restaurants have a field day. Sure. Hotels, we can sell 20,000 rooms a year. The hotels love it. The restaurants love it. People open up souvenir stores. I'll take you let's go to Cleveland for a moment. A terrible town, but that's my
That's Ohio for you.
I felt about Cleveland the way W.C. Fields felt about Philly. Yeah, but they did nothing. But then they had the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, and that's changed. People are going to Cleveland. Yeah. Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's a wonderful place to visit. And it all came about, but because they had the vision, the city fathers.
The Harborview Center is no longer there. Obviously, it's been torn down for Coachman Park. So, what would it take? How many square feet do you need? How much money would it take? What's necessary?
Well, we don't have anything. We can fit into anything. You give me a vanilla box, which is a big empty building, and we can fill anything. We have 2,700 exhibits. That's more exhibits than probably 3 of the museums in St. Petersburg all put together. We had people that would come, spend an hour, 2 hours in the museum, and come back 3 and 4 times because they couldn't see enough stuff. Right. And not only do we have what we call set exhibits, but those interviews I was talking to you about earlier, they see those interviews. They see a 3-minute edited version of Jack Benny, a 3-minute version of Robin Williams, 3-minute version of Hart, and all these different people. So it's a tremendous museum with different levels of visual. Right. But to get to answer your question, we could probably go in something as little as 7,000 feet, 8,000 feet. Would it fit? No, it wouldn't fit, but it would still be so packed with stuff that they would really enjoy themselves.
What's the ideal wish list?
Well, the ideal wish list would be at least 12,000 square feet. Sure. But we can make it work with 7 or 8. We can always build on. We can always come up with an idea. Now, I got a call from Clearwater. They wanted this on Cleveland Street. The head of Clearwater's economic development. Okay. Right. She called. We want it on Cleveland Street. I said, great, that's wonderful. Cleveland Street has a slightly tarnished reputation. And if you bring in something like the Comedy Hall of Fame, you can turn it around. Right. Sure.
Before we get too much, because we're about to run out of time, I want to get your contact info.
Okay. Yeah.
And that way, if anyone out there listening has any ideas in that
that'd be great.
How would they reach you?
Comedy Hall, just 2 words put together, Comedy Hall at AOL.com. Okay. COMEDYHALL, Comedy Hall at AOL.com. I'm willing to listen to any ideas, but
Good enough. And she's putting that on Facebook right now. We're also on YouTube and podcast. So we're going to have to wrap things up. But Tony, you led an incredible life, have such a rich background in the entertainment industry. It's been fun chatting with you today.
Hey, thank you for having me. Yeah.
Great. Kel, you going to do our verse for the week?
The verse for the week is Psalm 46:1. God is our refuge and strength and ever-present help in trouble.
And I'll leave you with this sage advice. I would rather have questions that can't be answered than answers that can't be questioned. Please tune in again next week, same time, same station, right here for another version of the award-winning Kelly Kelly Show.
Thanks for listening to the award-winning Kelly Kelly Show on the Tan Talk Radio Network.